the first to know Nsem-Pii TV.
Kofi Bentil and vice president the Imani Africa na yebekai Kofi Bentil the babetu idwase senka ebetini yema Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia-Kofi emanenye fair hearing yema ne kwan na ono nso emedi akonwa ne bi etese de yema John Dramani Mahama kwan ono nso ebabedi akonwa ne bi obekire ne bobre den time na oye vice president no. And he said, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia aye vice president. No, son vice president. John Dramani Mahama was a president. And a baby shadia. And ye adentin na ye ma Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia no one so ye president no ebi na okay can same way. And ye NDC amanyuku ni muni yo mudi kum say aden and a Kofi Bentil akokasa same way na Kofi Bentil kasa no okanya tre say impo edu baabi na wo se otini block enipa bebre e wo ni Facebook account because attack no na eba no edos impo ebinom ehia no one on one na one attacking na ene nioma NDC amanyoko no aplot e dia for no Kofi Bentil ene Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia ho no enya asem koto ene papa yi ekasa pa ekan akasa still ne facts or present about Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia no very fireable.
I have had a very interesting week, and I was forced to even put it on my Facebook. People were meeting about attacking me, and there were efforts afoot. You know, you hear a lot of these things, and I'm not saying this is NDC, but there are all kinds of surrogates and people who feel, you know, upset about anything. And I don't have a problem with, you know, debating and, you know, intellectual discourse and debates, no matter how vigorous.
Right.
Okay. I block a lot of people on my Facebook, but I do that only when you insult. But if you want to debate me, no matter how harshly, fine. But people are planning to attack. Somebody says if NDC comes to power, they will collapse my business. You know, you hear wild things. There are serious personal prices to pay for some of these things. But I agree with you. You don't have to be partial.
And that's most
it's
unfortunate.
It's a problem with our system, but
that's most unfortunate in this country.
Yeah.
That businesses will rise depending on which political party they affiliate with. This is what we are doing to destroy this country.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. And
okay.
I feel
so let's get in.
We need to get onto it, but let's get to it.
What is it about Dr. Bawumia?
So it is not so much specifically about Dr. Bawumia. So let me start from the beginning. See, across my maybe public life, from when I was a student leader, I somehow ran away from the limelight. I really, but let's leave it. And it finds me all the time. It's my friends who want to write me in for that office. And I won by a landslide. That's an aside. But I'm saying I ran away, it finds me. And even from then, there have been times when it has fallen to some people, including myself, to do the unpopular but necessary thing. Let me give you an example. In 1991, when we were thinking of passing the 1992 Constitution, there were the transitional provisions. It was a major problem. And as a student leader, you are dragged into it. People are like, no way, we should not accept it. We're forced into the discussion of whether we want constitutional rule, we want a democracy or not, or we are going to give it all up because of the transitional provisions. These arguments behind closed doors and wherever, we had to get into it, very unpopular. In those days, transitional provisions, they were terrible. Why are we going to? Let me leave it alone. But after careful thinking, we had to push the agenda that, look, let us vote for this constitution, even with the transitional provisions, because what we are looking for is political stability. If it takes us securing one man to get political stability, let us do so. Let's get on. After a while, we will know what to do with it. Today, the Iranians is no more. This constitution has been the longest lasting, the most durable. It was very unpopular then. People have even forgotten it. So here's the thing. It fell to me, I believe, to make these points because I got to a point where I realized that this country was angrily walking into what is perhaps a mistake. And these are my views. This is not Imani's views. When I sleep, I think about it. I look at what I look at. I read what I read.
Walking into a mistake that will be voting John Mahama back.
Yes. And I have a lot of personal respect for President John Mahama. He's one of the men who has served this country almost all his adult life. From local politician to deputy minister to vice president to president. and I believe an elderly and respectable statesman. In fact, in this write-up, I said, we are blessed as a country that we don't have to fight to determine who will lead us. But we have two fine gentlemen, President John Mahama and Vice President Bawumia, who we have to pick from. The other side of that is that we have been dealt that hand. We didn't have a choice in it. It was NDC and NPP. Of all the people in NDC, they picked John Mahama. It is their prerogative. And then NPP picks Bawumia. It is their prerogative. We, the people of Ghana, have been dealt this hand. You can like it or not. I think one of the two will be president. So we have to contend with the fact of who will it be. Sitting and reflecting on these choices. And Samson, somebody called me, and I've received a lot of calls, somebody very senior called me and said, why are you doing this? I said, you know what? What is your problem with me doing this?
You're a bigger influencer.
Well, that's one of the problems. We'll come to that. But then I said, okay. He says he's angry that this has gone on, and I was so why? I said, okay, I know you are angry. I must be angrier than you. I was on the streets demonstrating. I must be angrier than you. I spoke. I was effective in mobilizing for this government to come into power. I must be angrier than you. I have been more critical of this government than you. Myself and my brothers in Imani, Prof. Bob King, Theo, no one in this country has been more critical, whether a Japa or E-Levy, than anyone. We've taken personal risks. I must be angrier than you, and I'm angry.
So we give you that.
So see,
is that not the contradiction?
But that's the point. There are no brain cells in your heart. Your emotions can't think well. The thinking has to happen in your head. So regardless of my anger, and you've seen it in all my advocacy and what we've done, I had to reflect and say, I am angry, and that is pushing me to vote President John Mahama back into government. Then I look at the options, and I'm like, every measure you come up with against Vice President Bawumia, President Mahama also fails on it. He has been a president, he has been a vice president, and the track record is there, whether it's corruption, whether it's transformational leadership, whatever it is. And when I looked at all of that, I came to the conclusion that we are better off picking Vice President Bawumia and giving him a chance. At the least, we should give him a fair hearing. Let us hear the man and listen to what he has for this country. Now, all of that together forced me to have to make that endorsement, not to his person, but in the calculation that it is better for this country, even if we are going to make a mistake, to make a mistake going forward. Because we have tried this other quantity, and we have had this.
We have tried John Mahama as president, but not try Bawumia as president.
Yes.
That is a key argument you make.
That's a key argument. And I'm saying that
you sit on boards and you sit on interview panels. You pick people for experience on a job.
Yes.
If President Mahama has been president, he ought to do better if he's given the opportunity than someone who is seeking that opportunity.
You don't pick people for the wrong experience, or you don't pick people whose experience showed that they could not do the job. In fact, that is the perfect rule you use to exclude them. We gave you the chance and you failed, so out. You pick people who have shown you a certain tendency to do well, and then you analyze them, which is what I did. I said, well, this vice president has been vice president and he has not been corrupt. That's a fact. Do you have any evidence of that? It is not for lack of opportunity. Sipton switch alone was over $1 billion. And I won't go to do, by the way, I don't coordinate with the Bawumia campaign. They don't tell me what to do. I speak my mind, and it's not everything I say which they even like. So it's not everything I say here which may be perfectly accurate.
On the corruption scorecard, what is it you can say about Bawumia that you cannot say about President Mahama?
So President Mahama was vice president. He was president. At least you know of the Ford scandal.
Right.
I use that because that is an objective mark. There was an investigation. There was a conclusion. All the stories and everything being told. There were situations where
that he took a gift.
Yes,
of a car.
You're saying?
Is that it?
let me answer the question. We are comparing two people. One, there is a fact that findings of corruption were made against him. The other, there is none. And I'm saying it's not for lack of opportunity.
The other, whose office, there have been not one.
Not one of what?
But a number.
A number of what?
Of issues bordering on corruption.
You see.
And some standing trial.
So, I am saying, therefore, have we gotten to a conclusion that Vice President Bawumia was involved and has been found culpable? No.
That he has supervised projects that have become scandalized.
Have you gotten to a conclusion that finding has been made that tagged him with that? The answer is no. And I'm saying, on the other hand, as for rumors, there are plenty. And there are even more rumors on the side of President Mahama than Vice President Bawumia. But in his case, findings have been made. And like I said, every measure you pick to rule on whether to go with Vice President Bawumia or President Mahama, you'll find out that in his case, there have been findings made and things established. So again, you go forward and you realize that, look, if we are going to look at track record, then indeed, we should not be making this mistake. See, President Mahama himself uses examples like Black Stars. I recently saw a skit where he was saying, oh, when he comes, he's going to rebuild the Black Stars, you know, with homegrown. I mean, I checked out of Black Stars. And go check my Facebook. I gave up on Black Stars. During President Mahama's time, when we messed up so bad, they flew money from here to Brazil to go and pay footballers. All right? That is when I wrote it off. And since then, it's never been okay. So if the same person comes and says that, oh, I'm going to do this, and look at the track record of what he actually has done on that. So again, everything you raise, if you check here, you check here.
The Ghanaian voter.
No, it didn't work.
The Ghanaian voter. This is his measure or her measure. That in President Mahama's regime, I could buy Kenke for 1 cedi, 2 cedis. Today, I need 5 cedis. That is their measure. That in President Mahama's time, the cedi to the dollar was 3 cedis or up to 4 cedis, is it? That in Dr. Bawumia's regime, we have gone close to 17 cedis to a dollar, and now managing some 12 cedis to a dollar. And you know what that means to the entire economy. You know what that means to our present suffering. That people are actually gnashing their teeth.
So again, this is what happens. In the process, you set the premise wrong. In Vice President Bawumia's regime, that's where the problem is. Samson, you and I know as lawyers, the constitutional authority of a vice president is that he is an assistant to the president. This is not Vice President Bawumia's regime. This is President Nana Akufo-Addo's regime. And the nature of the vice presidency, like I said, the finance minister has more constitutional authority because he's the representative of the president.
The president's voice overrules the finance minister.
Only the president overrules.
The finance minister works under the instructions of the president.
Yes.
That's the executive president we have.
But that's the point I'm making.
If the president gives power or assignment to the vice president, and projected him from the very start, that the reason I want you to vote for me is that I have an economic messiah in my boat. And he gets in and he goes on his sonar, praises the vice president for a good economic management, and his senior minister praises him that vice president is the one, leading us to our economic destiny. How should we attempt to exonerate him?
Nobody should do that if that is what happened. And we were all here and we saw it. And indeed, it falls on President Nana Addo to answer those questions. Look, I have seen people send me and put on the internet Senior Minister Safo praising the Vice President and EMT for a good job done under his leadership and everything. That was the first term of this government. That was when that team was working. And again, I'm saying if the facts are not there, they should come and say it. But my information was that was the first term. When things were working, the EMT was active, and when they gave the advice, they take it. Second term, everything changed. If the president projected him as this is going to be the person I'm going to rely on to do my economics and whatever it is, and then he proceeds not to listen to him, or he proceeds not to take the advice. And by the way, again, I keep saying that this is not what Vice President Bawumia is saying. He himself actually takes more responsibility than I give him. Okay, but the point I'm making to your question is that, for me, the fact that you have capabilities mean nothing if they will not be used. As far as I am concerned, I think if you see the utterances of this person before, and then some of the actions, and his utterances and actions after, you can get exactly where he's going. Let me take e-levy, for instance. Look, clearly, he was against it because he made utterances that electronic transactions should not be taxed. It affects them. Then a decision is made by his boss that we are going to go this way, giving instruction to the finance minister, and then they go that way. And when people talk about why didn't he resign, whatever it is, see, when you don't have the prerogative, it is not your right to make the decision. And the person whose right it is to make the decision makes the decisions. You don't have any business saying you're going to resign. You've done your job. But look at what happens. He stayed there and he fought for the 100 cedi exemption. Okay, that's the driver-made thing that people don't seem to understand. The ultimate decision was we are going to do e-levy.
In your...
Let me land on this. And it is done against his express. The record is there. Now, he stays in and says, okay, you are going to do it because it's your prerogative. Okay, but please, can you exempt the poor? He fights for it and gets that. That is what you get by staying there. But that is what it means when you say you are a mate. You don't make the decisions, but you do influence. Now, they could have refused that too. But at least he got that.
All right.
So see, when you give your ideas and advice and it's not taken, you cannot be held responsible. It's the person who didn't take it who should answer for it.
I wanted to clear this small issue about the question of corruption among the two individuals. Now, when you refer to the fourth saga, when Shraj made the finding, it cleared the president, John Mahama then. It didn't find him guilty and didn't find him guilty of conflict of interest as well. In your estimation, which of the two regimes have been the most corrupt? The Mahama regime or the NPP Akufo-Addo regime? You know, as a matter of fact, that one of the major reasons the NPP was voted into power was that the NDC was very corrupt. What do you say about this regime?
This regime has been terribly corrupt.
More than Mahama's regime?
In terms of magnitude, I don't have the measure.
There's a measure by the Corruption Perception Index. At least for 4 years now, this government's best results is...
For time, look,
wait, I was
looking for a measure.
This government's
Let's use the
best
Corruption
result
Perception Index.
is the worst in Mahama's regime. So they can't get close to Mahama's best.
As per the Corruption Perception Index,
yeah,
this government has been more corrupt than the Mahama government.
That's correct.
And that's disappointing. That is terrible. But that is why this government